The Hockenheim Grand Prix circuit normally echoes to the sound of Formula One cars, but it was a very different type of horsepower at the end of last summer as it hosted the best drag races in Europe for the 7th Nitro Olympics. Nitro methanol fuel, straight alcohol and plain gasoline were burned in spectacular style, with top fuel Procop streetcar and super eliminator classes. But at one end of the scale, it was the road-going machinery. At the other, it was the awesome 4,000 horsepower top fuel funny cars. Burning out, with water on the track turning to clouds of steam as the drivers spin their tyres to heat the tyres up, to heat the running gear up, to ensure that the engine is at the optimum working temperature. And it's Rune Fjeld from Norway in the blue and white Trans Am, and Norm Wilding, Britain's most popular funny car racer, in the dark-coloured John Wolf Racing Chevy Beretta. This is giving us a sign of how drag racing works. The cars heating up the tyres in the burnout, then being pushed back into the staging area to prepare for the run itself. A quarter-mile drag strip, 4,000 horsepower. The lights go from yellow, the green light goes. It's Norm Wilding with a quicker start, but look at the power of Rune Fjeld. And Fjeld taking the faster time over the distance despite the quicker reaction of Norman Wilding. Rune Fjeld, you can see there, just breaking the line with that 3:02.56 km/h run. But they are the funny cars. This is going back to 1990 at Hockenheim, setting the scene for the Battle of 91. And on the 24th and 25th of August, over 50,000 spectators were here to watch this amazing battle between the fastest man in drag racing and the fastest lady. Once again, the burnout on the track, spinning the tyres. Here he comes, that's Tony Bryntesson from Sweden in the Pioneer Dragster. Nitro methanol fuel, 8 litres of engine, and something in the region of 4,000 horsepower. Here she comes, Liv Berstadt, the Swedish lady, the fastest lady in Europe, against the fastest man. This was the ultimate test. The two fastest drivers of 1990 lining up side by side on this amazing drag strip made out of the start-finish straight of the Hockenheim Grand Prix circuit. You can see the crowds packing the grandstand in the stadium area, a quarter of a mile flat out into the forest, then the runoff area, the tension building all the time as the cars wait for the yellow light. The cars are pre-staged, that means they're ready to engage the second magneto to bring their engines to full power. The staging lights are on, the drivers are ready to go, the ear defenders and the hands go over the ears as the ground shakes with 8,500 brake horsepower. Yellow lights on, preparations made, the drivers ready to release the brake, floor the throttle and go! The three yellows go to the green, and it's Berstadt storming away. Tony Bryntesson, whatever happened as Berstadt crosses the line at 240 miles an hour. A new European record for Liv Berstadt. But the question, what happened to Tony?
Okay, we were sorry that you left the race. What has happened?
Well, probably we stepped up too much and put in too much horsepower in the engine.
But the first race today morning, it was better, eh?
Yeah, that was better, but Liv Berstadt ran 5:43 then, and we must step it up to Challenger. And we had too much horsepower, so we lost traction.
Well, in slow motion, you can see exactly what happened on the left side of our screen. The tyres light up, literally catching fire. And Tony making the decision to back off, because once those 4,000 brake horsepowers go out of control, he will become the fastest passenger in the world. Backs off the throttle, pulls the drag chute, and decides to live to fight another day. And this is the another day, the end of August 1991, and over 148 participants from all over Europe arrive at Hockenheim, including small 2-litre turbocharged cars, the classic Detroit muscle of the big Chevy and Ford V8s. Some drivers luckier than others, but all the drivers racing to get that elusive best time. There are some pretty exotic and unusual machines in drag racing. In addition to the Pro Stock and the Club drag race machinery, we've got the pure alcohol dragsters, we've got the Pro Comp machines, and we've got some of the most wonderful Pro Comp and Pro Stock door slammers in Europe. This is Bjorn Kronqvist with a 1963 Chevy Corvette. Quite how you classify a Chevy Corvette as an all-steel door slammer shell, I do not know, since they're all glass fibre, but just look at that bodywork. There is the classic example of the burnout, spinning the tyres on the water, the steam going in all directions, the tyres heating the treads up to around about 200 degrees. They're now sticky like glue, it gives maximum traction off the line, and Bjorn Kronqvist with the classic Chevy weaves and twitches and manages to pull out a hole shot over the more modern Ford Pro. Bjorn Kronqvist. And how about this for a classic? A 57 Chrysler Ove Björk from Sweden in the streetcar class. One of the all-steel door slammers, powerful tuned V8 engine, 6.5 litres. A station wagon is his competition, but just look at the classic finned Chrysler as Ove Björk wins his qualifier. The qualifying rounds, 3 sets of qualifying rounds, enable the teams in every category to have a run against each of their competition, making their way through the eliminators to the eventual finals. It's a chance to test the machinery to the limit and a chance for the crowd to revel in the noise of those big Detroit cast iron V8s. Of course, Germany, one of the best places in Europe for drag racing, thanks to the influence of the US Air Force bases, and a great deal of Detroit expertise comes across, but something which is unique to the Europeans. How about this, the Pro Stock and competition bikes, the two categories of screaming, high-revving two-wheelers who don't just excite the motorbike fans alone. These machines with supercharged, turbocharged 4-cylinder engines, they're using nitrous oxide to boost even more power. Some of the bikes developing over 500 brake horsepower. As we look down the paddock on the strip at the moment, the Swiss Peter Bossert, he clipped the barrier with his foot at over 300 kilometers an hour. That's him on the left of our screens. Broke his foot, but he'll be back for later action, and we'll be seeing him later on. In the meanwhile, wait for the four-wheeled action after the break. And we join the drag racers back at Hockenheim for the Nitro Olympics of 1991. And it's the top fuelers rolling up to the starting line. In front of everybody, Tony Brinterson in the Pioneer Dragster. Connie Anderson of Sweden, his partner for this qualifying run, priming the supercharger as the car starts up, pouring neat nitromethanol. You can see the torque shaking the chassis of the car from side to side, and that is only at tickover. These awesome 4,000 brake horsepower machines. 90% nitromethane, that with a huge mechanical supercharger. There's the belt that drives the supercharger. The supercharger is tucked away under that Kevlar bulletproof blanket because it's spinning at over 40,000 RPM. And if that explodes, it's like a grenade going off. Connie Anderson doing his burnout alongside. You can see the tyres swelling as the engine's torque goes through them. That gives an effect of increasing the gearing. These cars only have one gear forward, one gear backward in that amazing transmission. It's got to harness the power of that highly tuned Detroit V8. The cars use a semi-locked-up clutch for the first part of the drag run. That will allow the engine to reach optimum revs and stay there right up to 400 kilometers an hour. And Bryndesen really storming away. Connie Anderson gets out of shape and backs off. But it's Bryndesen crossing the line with a 5.47 second quarter-mile run. The British driver, John Lovett, from Cleveland in the northeast of England, with the highly complex 32-valve V8 engine on his car. He lines up to make his burnout, but a problem there. The engine revs die. The crew dash to the Valence Lovett racing car. There is obviously a problem. They're checking the butterflies on the injection system. The engine revs falling. John Lovett waiting to see what the fate of his car is, and sadly that highly complex 4-camshaft 32-valve V8 engine is not going to run on this pass. Lovett completing his run on the end of a tow rope. The battle now against the clock for the Valence Lovett team to get the car prepared in time to run later in the weekend. But worse was to come for Lovett during the course of the hot August weekend. Next driver on the starting line, the Norwegian lady, Oiva Jakobsen. She preparing to make her burnout. Oiva, one of the new talents in European drag racing. There goes the burnout. The car rolling to a halt. Oiva selecting the reverse gear in the transmission to ease the car back. These cars making their burnout with one of 2 ignition magnetos switched on. That will probably give them something in the region of 2,500 horsepower. Then the second magneto is switched on for the run itself. The Christmas tree lights come on, go to green. And a problem for Oiva Jakobsen. The engine revs die. She knocks the car out of gear, coasts to a halt, but she still reaches 6th place with a 5.72 on that partial pass. Oiva Jakobsen of Norway, 6th on the grid. Another lady, Monica Öberg, through the qualifiers with the Bosch dragster. Again, you can see the torque of the engine rocking the flexible 25-foot long chassis of the dragster. Watch as she drops the clutch for the burnout. The car twists and flexes and leaps on its rear tyres. Monica Öberg, one of the most experienced ladies in drag racing. Lines the car up now for the staging. The pressure building for Monica there. The classic drag racing Christmas tree. The pre-stage, the stage, the yellows, the greens. Flames from the exhaust of Öberg's car, but a full pass down the strip. That is the 3rd fastest run with a 5.37 seconds elapsed time for a quarter of a mile standing start. To put that into perspective, a very quick road car would be lucky to do that quarter of a mile in 20 seconds. Öberg managing to beat that by a quarter. But how about this? The fastest Mercedes-Benz and the fastest German at the Hockenheim track. The Pro Comp Mercedes V8 of Rico Anpes. The hunting sound of that wonderful V8 engine in the front of the Mercedes Coupe. The escape hatch open. The photographer's posing on the staging point. Well, he's going to have to get out of the way as Rico's Benz lines up at the Christmas tree. The engine revs prepared, the engine revs rising. Rico Benz watching the lights and slingshotting away. Rico Anpes, the fastest German at the circuit, a 6.27 seconds. Meanwhile, the street cars, the door slammers and the club racers all enjoy their racing too. These are the night-time drag race sessions, still attracting the crowd as they race on into the sunset. ...169 kilometers an hour, that is 100 miles an hour. But how about this, the Volkswagen Beetles, in a special event sponsored by the German magazine Hot Car. The Beetles are providing some of the fun and the action at the Hockenheim. And now this is what the crowd have been waiting for, the torches in the crowd. The top fuelers racing in the dark, catapulting off into the darkness. Just watch the exhaust headers as the nitromethanol, unburnt, burns right through the engine and out of the exhaust pipe. Liv Berstadt, last year's winner, already set a 5.4. There are the flashes from the exhaust, the red, the yellow, go! And a storming run from Liv Berstadt, a 5.34 second pass in the dark gives her the fastest starting position. Can Tony Bryndesen compete with that? Preparing to run, Tony Bryndesen running solo, aiming to compete with Liv Berstadt. You can see the flashes of flame at the exhaust as Tony Bryndesen again competes in the grudge match against the fastest lady. We've got the fastest man on the track, the Pioneer dragster, and Tony Bryndesen completing his burnout, the steam going everywhere, the flashes of flame, the crowd excited. The question, can he beat 5.34? The crew cleaning the tyres off. Bryndesen's car now, the flashes from the exhaust building up. The second magneto is initiated. Everything is go. He prepares to unleash over 4,000 brake horsepower in the dark. Flames, smoke, Bryndesen is going for it. And there's the time, 5.33. Tony Bryndesen sets the fastest time. He is the quickest man as they go through from the qualifiers into the final sessions. Now it's Jonathan Lovett from Great Britain once again. He had problems with the engine earlier on. And look at that fire at the back of the car. There is a problem with Jonathan Lovett's car, I am sure. The crew are rushing over to take a look. No, they're saying it's okay. He's being pushed back into the staging area, so Lovett is okay. This complex 4-camshaft V8 engine, there you see it. And that was most definitely a supercharger failure, exploding on the line. Fire extinguishers rushing to Jonathan Lovett's aid. Lovett sitting tight, calm as ever, Jonathan Lovett. But what a disappointment for the Englishman. Continual engine problems, but certainly proving the need for that bulletproof blanket around the supercharger. Well, the new McGee 4-camshaft engine, again causing problems. Let's have a look at that as he drops the clutch, gives it maximum power. Something lets go at the... In fact, it's at the top of the block. The whole engine simply collapses in flames. Well, it's certainly a very complex and potentially very quick engine, but we've got to bear with Jonathan Lovett's disappointment as his crew again work all night to get that engine back into racing trim. Let's have another look at that huge flash of flame. Nitromethanol exploding in all directions, flames shooting out of the right-hand branch of the exhaust pipes, flames from the supercharger as well, but that Kevlar blanket holding everything in place. The supercharger casing bouncing onto the track at the side of the car. When these engines blow up, they're known as grenades. Now you can see why. But to finish the day off, there are more flames and action. How about a fire-spitting truck? This is the machine, Ronnie Picardo's special Peterbilt drag truck. You ain't never seen a Peterbilt truck like this one before. It's powered by a jet engine that once powered one of the Red Arrows, followed Matt jet trainers. Now it's in the back of this amazing cut and shut Peterbilt. Ronnie Picardo, former drag race king, now with this most amazing Peterbilt. It once would be known as a normal Peterbilt with the longer bonnet, but this one is nothing like the ones that come out of the factory. The engine spinning up past 20,000, past 30,000, on its way to 40 and 50,000 RPM. The ignition leads being removed from Ronnie Picardo's truck. You can hear the turbines spinning faster and faster. The afterburner lights up. Temperatures in the tailpipe of this engine passing 3,000 degrees. The crowd cheer. The lights are flashing. You can see now as the afterburner builds up its pressure and its temperature. The truck is jumping forwards on its brakes. The revs rising to a crescendo, and Ronnie Picardo prepares to blast off down the straight at the Hockenheim. Amazing Peterbilt truck built in Britain by Ronnie Picardo. It's giving smoke, it's giving flame, and what an end to a day of drag racing at the Hockenheim. Of course, there's much more to go at the Nitro Olympics. Join us for the second day's action coming up after the break. Welcome back to the Hockenheim Nitro Olympics, and Sunday is opened by the cheerleaders from the Frankfurt Galaxy football team. But as the cheerleaders add some style to the proceedings, here are the top fuel teams. This is where the battling is going to be at. Eva Jakobsen from Norway, Monica Öberg, the team from Sweden. She's been racing since the early 80s in top fuel and probably has the most experience of all the participants in the Nitro Olympics. Connie Andersson from Sweden. Again, another very quick driver set the pace in the early stages of the Nitro Olympics. A new team in 91, Risto Pultainen from Finland, second best time all-time runner in Europe. And John Lovett is back. There is John preparing to climb into his overalls. The team have worked all through the night to put the finishing touches to a rebuilt four-camshaft McGee engine. And the European record holder, Liv Berstadt, the fast lady from Norway. And since her victory last year, she is the spectators' favourite at Hockenheim. The Pioneer team with Tony Brinterson. This may be the man that could take the title away from Liv Berstadt. His run in the dark last night, setting the fastest time of the Saturday. But the question for everybody, why Top Fuel?
Monica, why Top Fuel?
Exciting, very exciting. You get a real kick of it. I mean, it's thrilling, yeah.
It's the ultimate class in the sport.
Top Fuel is top of the line. It's the king sport, drag racing, and it's a very fast car, and I love speed.
Well, beleaguered by reporters, it's Liv Berstadt. But now it's everything or nothing because they drive in the knockout system. The winner of each round goes up one, and for the loser, the weekend is over. Spectators again packing the Hockenheim Stadium, over 50,000 of them. The teams are getting nervous and busy, all the safety measures being carried out meticulously. The drivers, including Britain's John Lovett, prepare to climb into their supercharged road rockets. The rollover cage, you can see they're surrounding the driver completely. Special belts around the lower arms prevent the arms being thrown out in the event of a crash. Full harnesses, obviously, multi-layer fireproof overalls, naturally, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to the courage of the driver, John Lovett, climbing aboard. Man from Cleveland in the northeast of England, started with a top alcohol car, but rapidly moved on to be Britain's only top fuel dragster racer in Europe. The Pioneer crew, they're getting ready as the German national anthem plays to herald the arrival of the top fuel cars. Now it's getting serious. Liv Berstadt rolling in for her burnout. Her rival is John Lovett in the Valence Lovett car. This is the car with the revolutionary 4-camshaft engine with the multi-valve cylinder heads, potentially capable of developing almost 5,000 horsepower, John Lovett's car, but we've seen the effects of that technology going wrong in previous days. And it's Lovett and Berstadt. Lovett gets a good run, he lights his tyres up, but look at Berstadt fighting the snaking dragster. Lovett setting a 4.10, Berstadt a 4.11, so Lovett unlucky to be knocked out. But a super run from Lovett, beaten though by Liv Berstadt. That's the starter motor of Monica Öberg's car. The fastest time so far, that 5.43 of Liv Berstadt. Monica Öberg meeting Ove Jakobsen, the Swedish lady against the Norwegian. Swedish flags being waved there. So Monica Öberg has got that 5.43 to beat. But first she's got to knock out Ove Jakobsen. The Bosch dragster on the right. That's the lady on the left. Ove Jakobsen. There we see Monica Öberg's car, and it's neck and neck down the start-finish straight. The chutes go out. And look out for Jakobsen, his chute hasn't opened. And Ove Jakobsen, the Danish lady, manages to stop the dragster safety. Applause for the team, but Monica Öberg wins with a 5.41. That's the new time to beat. This is Tony Bryntesen. He gets a free ticket on this run as the top competitor. An odd number of cars ensuring that he has to run without a competitor. Well, I'm quite sure Tony is not going to risk the engine on a full pass. He'll drop the clutch, he'll make a run on partial power, then cut the engine off and coast down. He will not want to risk mechanical mayhem if he wants to run on to race in the finals. So Tony Bryntesen making his burnout. The crew checking the tyre marks, marshalling him back into the staging area. Swedish flag flying from the tail of Tony's car as it rolls back. The crew cleaning debris off the tyres. Final check of the crucial tyre pressures. These rear tyres running at very low pressures indeed, around about 10 or 12 pounds, but it's critical that they're equally balanced, because if not, the car would get out of balance, snake off the line, and that could spell disaster with 4,000 horsepower under the driver's right foot. Final check over of the tyres, of the mechanical pieces. The car moves from the pre-staging area up to the line for the staging. The two white lights will go on the Christmas tree, the green light, and it is a full pass. He's trying for a full pass, but something broke. Listen to the engine as Tony limps down. That, you can hear the crashing and banging. That is what Tony was desperately trying to avoid. Tony Bryntesen with a gearbox failure, wrecking the engine as well, and the Team Pioneer crew have only got 2 hours to get the car into shape. Just as well, perhaps, that Tony had that single run on his own. It's now Connie Anderson against the Finn, Risto Putainen. Putainen in the red car, Connie Anderson in the black. Machines rolling forward for their burnout. Bristow making his burnout. Connie Anderson. Burnout complete. The cars being rolled back onto the staging area. Winner of this run will be racing against Tony Bryndesen, the man who's fighting against the clock. And it's the black car that's setting the time. It's certainly setting the pace to beat. But it's Risto Putanen who gets the 5.40 seconds. Connie Anderson suffering problems in the latter stages of that pass. And Risto with a 5.40 seconds will move on to challenge Tony Bryndesen if his mechanics can get the cars completed in time. Now we get a chance to look at some of the other machinery running in the competition B pools. And it's Gerd Habermann with his V8 engine dragster completing his burnout. But just look at the machine he's competing against. Yes, you did believe your eyes. It was a Citroën 2CV. The world's slowest car against a dragster. And Peter Schoefer's 2CV beats the straight dragster in a straight line sprint. An 8.31 second pass for the V8 engine 2CV puts it to the head of its group, and the crowd love it. Another machine which really is stretching the rules a bit. This is actually classified as a motorbike. Tony Klaas of Holland with this strange machine making a partial pass, having to cope with a deflating rear tyre as he limps down to a standstill. But the spectators are enjoying every minute of this. This is Norbert Kuno preparing to go in his Camaro. The Volkswagen Beetle of Jan Lachstadter preparing for his burnout as well. These are the road stock cars, the cars running in the Hot Car Series, sponsored by the German magazine. The lights go to green. It's the Camaro versus the Beetle. And upholding German honours, it's the Beetle gets the initial start, the Camaro catching in the latter half though. And the Beetle beats the American. Just listen to the crowd. Jan Lachstadter winning in the Beetle. The Super Eliminator category, the black Ford Pop of Dennis Boyle from Harrow in Middlesex completes his burnout alongside the Swiss Daniel Meerhofer in the red Chevy. And it's Meerhofer who'll start 2 seconds ahead because the Eliminator is a handicap series. So 2 seconds between their two starting time. On the left of our screen, the black Ford Pop. There goes the Chevy. There goes Dennis Boyle, and Dennis Boyle slingshotting past to take victory in the finals.
The Grundig Global Adventure.
Live dabei sein. Europas größtes Dragster-Rennen, die Nitro Olympics. Das Duell der PS-Giganten auf der Hockenheim Quartermile. Von 0 auf 400 Stundenkilometern in knapp 5 Sekunden. 4000 PS beim Warm-up der Reifen. Die Saturday Night Show, einmalig in Europa. Noch gibt es Karten, bestellen Sie jetzt. See you in Hockenheim.
And back to Hockenheim for the Nitro Olympics, and it's the two-wheel action now, the two fastest pro stock bikes. Len Padgett and Wayne Saunders, both from Great Britain, both on Suzukis. This could settle the European Interserie title as Wayne Saunders challenges Len Padgett. Len Padgett at the moment the championship leader. Wayne Saunders preparing to challenge these amazing bikes, developing something in the excess of 300 horsepower. They rate for the red and then the green light. And howling down the straight at Hockenheim, it's the two British Suzukis. And Wayne Saunders takes the victory with an 8.1 second pass. But Len Padgett has collected enough points by coming second to leave Hockenheim as the overall winner of the Euroseries. The next decision in the Euroseries, though, is the Pro Street cars. In the foreground, it's Ove Bjork with that amazing befinned Chrysler. In the red pickup, it's Jörg Schumacher, who set a new European record in the first round. Let's see what happens as the lights go to green. And it's Ove Bjork with a much better reaction from the lights. The Swede heading the field in the 57 Chrysler, but the speed of Schumacher catches him and wins with an 8.72 seconds against 9.37. But Bjork winning the trophy for the best looking car in the 57 Chrysler. The Swedish fans have got their fingers now crossed for Monica Öberg's run, who is competing against Liv Berstadt. There is Monica, there is Liv. Monica got the better time in the first round, but Liv preparing to fight back. The two cars completing the burnout. The two fast ladies in these awesome 400 cubic inch machines. These cars running the nitro-methanol, coming back to the pre-staging area after their burnouts and preparing for the battle. Final adjustments made, it's the green light, and Liv just a touch ahead at the finish line. A 5.40 second pass for Liv Berstadt. So Liv Berstadt moving up ahead of Monica Öberg with a 5.469. Now it's Risto Puteinen getting ready for the second semi-final. This man's first season in drag racing. He's lined up against the pioneer dragster of Tony Bryntesen. Bryntesen, the man expected to be the major challenger here at the Hockenheim, but don't forget he had that mechanical failure, mechanical carnage on his previous pass. The crew have been working flat out for 2 hours to change the gearbox, to rebuild the engine. They've done it, he's made it to the line. He's up alongside Risto Puteinen of Finland. Tony Bryntesen completes his pass, the Swede on the right in the blue and white car. The red car of the Finn, Puteinen. Being moved into the staging area as well, but the Pioneer car in full flight at the green light. See which car moves first. Puteinen quicker off the line, but look at Tony Bryntesen. The car storming up the strip. 1/100th of a second splitting the two cars. And Puteinen quicker down the final part of the strip, but the fastest time and the result going to Tony Bryntesen. The final of the competition bikes featuring Peter Bossert from Switzerland and the Dutchman Herman Jolink on the wonderful sounding Ducati. The big V-twin Ducati completing its burnout. Peter Bossert, who's the Swiss rider who broke his foot on the first day after clipping the Armco barrier, but he's determined to fight back. Suzuki preparing for the line, the Ducati on the far side of the strip. That big V-twin Ducati bellows off the line. But again, handling problems. But Bossert suffering from the handling problems with the Suzuki, keeping his cool, winning the final and the title of the Euroseries with a 9.13 second pass. Now it's Jacques Bidard from Toulouse in France rolling in for the final of the competition cars, and his rival is Bjorn Kronqvist with the radical Chevy Corvette 63. This spectacular looking beast. Kronqvist being the fastest in the qualifying runs and the favourite, and apart from that, he's the burnout king of the Hockenheim. The burnout's completed though. Kronqvist facing his toughest challenge from the Frenchman, from Jacques Bidard. It's going to be the battle of reaction times. The Corvette versus the dragster. They come to the line. Let's see which driver has the quickest reaction. And look at that. 0.4 of a second difference, and the quicker Corvette catching down the strip. But even though it was a slower run, the faster reaction time of Bidard wins the final. 7.75 against 7.43. Now it's the Rico-Benz, the 2,000 brake horsepower Mercedes-Benz in the final of the Pro Comp category. The big V8 fires up. The fastest Mercedes-Benz in the world is the claim. That big Mercedes, the bodywork going down. And his rival is the Swiss driver, Krivan, in the Chevy Camaro. But Rico Anthes, the home driver, this is the car the Germans all want to see win. Veso Krivan in the 86 Camaro, his rival. There he is, the Swiss driver from Alsoville. These are the finals. Pro Comp category. Safety hatch open on the Mercedes, letting a final little bit of fresh air in to that red-hot interior as the cars move back into the staging area. Let's see if the Mercedes can win that title of being the fastest Mercedes in the world. Can it beat the traditional Detroit iron of the Chevy? The two cars lining up on the white line now. All eyes on the Christmas tree. It's down to driver reaction, it's down to driver courage and the power of these two cars. Engine revs rise. And Rico Anthes storms off the line. A 6.21 second pass. That's the best ever German time for Rico's Benz. 361.45 kilometers an hour. That is well over 205 miles an hour. But now Liv Berstadt lines up alongside her top fuel rival. It's the grudge match once again. Liv Berstadt alongside Tone Brinterson. Brinterson in the Pioneer Dragster, having worked to rebuild that engine and gearbox inside of 2 hours. Liv Berstadt having beaten Monika Öberg and Jonathan Lovett to make it through to the finals. A repeat of the 1990 finals, coming again in 91 at Hockenheim. The fastest lady in Europe against the fastest man in Europe. Liv Berstadt from Hebach in Sweden. In Norway, I beg your pardon, I'm giving her the wrong nationality. Liv Berstadt from Hebach in Norway. Tony Brinterson alongside of her from Jönköping in Sweden. So it's national honours, it's the European title honours, and it's the straight battle of the Nitro Olympics. The Christmas tree lights going on, the yellows, the greens, and it's go, and Liv Berstadt is flying. Liv Berstadt setting a 5.51. Problems again for Tony Berntersen, but Liv Berstadt setting a time of 411 kilometers an hour, 225 miles an hour. And the Mobil 1 team driver celebrates her victory. Liv Berstadt, winner in 91, will be returning in 92 to see this year's Nitro Olympics on Screen Sport. Till then, from Steve Slater, thank you and goodbye.
Yes, yes, yes.